Royal Guard was kicked out of a luxury car dealership. The next day, he returned with Prince William. "We don't serve your type here. People like you waste our time." That's what Preston Crownley told Corporal Tristan Beckford before having him thrown out of the dealership while still in full Queen's Guard uniform. "If you've got a problem," he added, "go cry to your precious prince." 24 hours later, that's exactly what happened. And who walked in next left the entire showroom frozen. But before we reveal what happened next, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling us where in the world you're watching from. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. The morning light filtered through the curtains of Corporal Tristan Beckford's modest apartment. At precisely 5:30 a.m., his eyes opened, a habit formed through 12 years of military discipline that even his rare day off couldn't break. Tristan's walls displayed a life of service and passion. Between military commendations hung vintage automobile sketches. Pride of place was a faded photograph of his grandfather with a partially restored Jaguar I-Pace from 1972. A true work of art isn't just owned, his grandfather had told him. It's understood, respected. Those words had shaped both his love for cars and his approach to life. Glancing at his savings statement, Tristan confirmed the figure. £58,000, enough for a down payment after 7 years of careful budgeting. Today, he would visit Crownline Motors, London's most prestigious vintage car dealership. Tristan paused before the mirror, considering his attire. Something about this milestone called for the uniform that had become part of his identity. "It's who I am," he told his reflection, and retrieved his ceremonial uniform. Crownline Motors appeared on Berkeley Square like a temple to automotive excess. Taking a deep breath, Tristan pushed through the revolving doors. The interior resembled a museum more than a dealership. Polished marble floors reflected the warm lighting from crystal chandeliers. Each vehicle sat on a slightly raised platform, their paintwork gleaming under perfectly positioned spotlights. His entrance had not gone unnoticed. Several customers turned, their expressions ranging from surprise to curiosity. Some whispered excitedly, pointing discreetly. A middle-aged couple nudged each other, the woman whispering, "Is that a Royal Queen's Guard?" A young boy tugged at his father's sleeve. "Dad, look. Can I take a picture with him?" Tristan moved further into the showroom, aware of the subtle shift in atmosphere his uniform had created. An elderly gentleman gave him a respectful nod that Tristan returned with a slight inclination of his head. 3 salespeople in tailored suits stood attending to customers. A fourth, a young man with an eager expression, noticed Tristan and took a half-step toward him before a sharp look from across the room froze him in place. Tristan approached the reception desk where a perfectly coiffed woman was typing. "Good morning," he said politely. "I was hoping to speak with someone about your classic car collection." The receptionist looked up, her professional smile faltering as she took in his uniform. "Do you have an appointment, sir?" "I don't know. I was hoping it might be possible to speak with someone today." Her eyes flickered to a man across the room. "I'll see if anyone is available. Your name, please." "Corporal Tristan Beckford, Queen's Guard." She made a show of checking a calendar. "I'm afraid our sales consultants are fully booked today. Perhaps you could come back another time." Her tone suggested that another time meant in different attire. "I understand it's busy. I'm happy to wait," Tristan replied with practiced patience. As he moved away from the desk, he observed 2 new customers being immediately greeted by salespeople who had been fully booked moments earlier. Left to his own devices, Tristan began to explore the showroom. In the vintage section, he found what he had come to see, a selection of the finest British classics. And there was a sight that made his breath catch. A 1964 Jaguar I-Pace Roadster, identical to the one in his grandfather's photograph. Its British racing green paintwork gleaming under the lights. As if drawn by a magnet, Tristan moved toward it, unaware that his path was being closely monitored from across the showroom. Preston Crownley, the heir to the Crownline Motors empire, adjusted his bespoke suit jacket as he intercepted a salesperson heading in Tristan's direction. "I'll handle this one, James," Preston said quietly. We don't need to waste resources on tourists. Tristan studied the curves of the E-type, mentally comparing it to his grandfather's photographs. The craftsmanship was exquisite. A perfect restoration with subtle modern improvements only a true enthusiast would recognize. It's got the 3.8L straight 6, came a voice from behind him. Tristan turned to find an older gentleman with kind eyes. Triple SU carburetors, if I'm not mistaken. They didn't switch to the 4.2L until late '64. You have a good eye, sir, Tristan replied. This is the earlier 3.8 with the aluminum dash and the smaller taillights that purists prefer. The man's eyebrows rose appreciatively. You know your Jaguars, young man. Are you a collector? An enthusiast, sir. My grandfather was a mechanic who specialized in British sports cars. The man extended his hand. Charles Wellington, that's my wife over there being shown something far too modern for my tastes. Corporal Tristan Beckford. Queen's Guard, obviously. Wellington smiled. I was Army myself years ago, household cavalry. Their conversation was interrupted by Preston materializing beside them, his attention focused entirely on Wellington. Sir Charles, I didn't realize you had arrived. I do apologize. Amanda should have notified me immediately. No apologies necessary, young man, Wellington replied. I was just having a fascinating conversation with Corporal Beckford here about this magnificent E-type. Preston's smile remained fixed, but his eyes hardened as they flicked to Tristan. How wonderful! However, I believe Mrs. Wellington was asking for you, Sir Charles. Something about that Mercedes she was considering. As Wellington walked away, Preston's demeanor changed instantly. I don't know what you think you're doing, he said in a low voice, but we don't appreciate time wasters in this establishment. I assure you, Mr. Crownley. Preston Crownley. Mr. Crownley, I am here as a serious buyer. Preston made a show of looking Tristan up and down. Really? Because it appears to me that you're here to attract attention to yourself. This isn't a tourist photo opportunity. From across the showroom, whispers traveled between customers. Is that guardsman actually shopping? Can they afford these cars? My attire has nothing to do with my intentions, Tristan replied evenly. I've saved for 7 years to purchase a vehicle like this E-type. I'm prepared to discuss financing options today. Preston's laugh was short and dismissive. This particular vehicle is priced at $135,000. Are you suggesting that a guardsman has that kind of buying power? After being dismissed, Tristan continued exploring the showroom, eventually finding himself drawn back to the Jaguar. Without thinking, he reached out toward the door handle to admire the perfectly restored chrome work. What the hell do you think you're doing? Preston's voice cut through the showroom. He strode toward Tristan, anger distorting his features. Nearby customers turned to watch. Step away from the vehicle now. Preston's hand shot out, gripping Tristan's wrist. Tristan gently but firmly removed his arm from Preston's grasp. I was simply admiring the craftsmanship, Mr. Crownley. As I mentioned earlier, I'm interested in purchasing an IPE. Preston laughed sharply. Purchasing? Do you have any idea what this vehicle costs? £135,000 for this particular example, Tristan replied calmly. Though I'd argue it's slightly overpriced given the non-original radio and the replacement hood latches which aren't period correct for a '64 model. Preston's face re-eaned. Oh, so you're an expert now, a palace guard who moonlights as a classic car authenticator. My grandfather restored these for 30 years, Tristan said. I grew up learning every component, every specification. This model has the Moss gearbox with a synchro mesh on second, third, and fourth, but not first. The engine produces 265 horsepower and can reach 150 miles per hour. Quite revolutionary for its time. A murmur of appreciation rippled through the onlookers. Someone whispered, "He really knows his stuff." Preston's expression darkened further. Memorizing Wikipedia articles doesn't make you a customer, Corporal. This vehicle costs more than you'd make in 5 years of standing around the palace. I've saved for 7 years, Tristan replied evenly. I have £58,000 for a down payment and financing arrangements prepared for the remainder. 58,000? Preston scoffed loudly. That wouldn't cover the cost of the wheels and tires. This is a vehicle for people who understand value, not for people who dress up for tourists. Sir Charles Wellington stepped forward from the gathered crowd. Young man, your behavior is appalling. This gentleman clearly knows these vehicles better than you do. Preston turned momentarily flustered. Sir Charles, with all due respect, you don't understand the situation. We get these time wasters regularly. The only person playing pretend here seems to be you, Mr. Crownley, Wellington replied coldly. Preston's face contorted with rage before he regained his composure. I appreciate your opinion, Sir Charles, but I'm responsible for running this business. And part of that responsibility includes identifying serious buyers. He turned back to Tristan, which you clearly are not. I can assure you, Tristan began. No, let me assure you of something, Preston interrupted, his voice rising. People of your financial standing don't belong in establishments like this. I've spent my entire life around cars like these, Tristan said quietly. I don't care if your grandfather was Enzo Ferrari himself, Preston snapped. The fact remains that you walked in here in that ridiculous costume thinking it would somehow give you special treatment. This is not a costume, Tristan replied, his voice taking on the edge of command. This is the uniform of the Queen's Guard, and I wear it with honor. How quaint, Preston sneered. Well, Your Majesty's toy soldier, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Security, please escort this person from the premises. 2 men in dark suits approached. Sir, we need you to come with us, one said, not unkindly. This is unnecessary, Tristan said. I am perfectly capable of leaving on my own. Then why haven't you? Preston retorted. Sir Charles Wellington stepped forward again. Mr. Crownley, this behavior is completely unacceptable. I shall be speaking with your father about this incident. Preston's confidence faltered momentarily at the mention of his father, but he recovered quickly. My father understands the difference between serious buyers and tourists looking for photo opportunities. Is your father here today? Tristan asked. My father is Reginald Crownley, the owner of Crownline Motors, Preston replied with a smirk. And as his son and general manager, I speak with his full authority. As they began to escort him toward the exit, Preston couldn't resist a final barb. If you have complaints about how real businesses operate, why don't you write to your puppet master, Prince? I'm sure he'll be devastated to hear you couldn't play with the expensive toys. Tristan's back remained straight, his steps measured and dignified as he marched toward the exit. This is disgraceful, a woman muttered as he passed. At the door, one of the security guards spoke quietly. Sorry about this, sir. Just doing our job. Tristan gave him a slight nod of understanding. As the glass doors closed behind him, he caught a final glimpse of the Jaguar Ipe, a dream temporarily deferred by prejudice and assumption. The barracks of the Queen's Guard stood in stark contrast to the opulence of Crownline Motors. Tristan entered his quarters, carefully removing his bear skin cap and placing it on its stand with practiced precision. He had just begun unfastening his tunic when a knock sounded at his door. Enter, he called. Major Edmund Whitfield stepped into the room, his observant eyes immediately catching the tension in Tristan's movements. Afternoon, Beckford, he said. Thought you were spending your day off at that car dealership you've been talking about for weeks. I did, sir, Tristan replied, continuing to remove his uniform with meticulous care. Must not have gone well, then, Whitfield observed. You're doing that thing with your jaw, clenching it like you're about to bite through steel. Tristan paused. Just a disappointing experience, sir. Nothing worth discussing. Whitfield closed the door and leaned against it. In my experience, nothing worth discussing usually means exactly the opposite. What happened? Slowly, Tristan recounted the events at Crownline Motors. his voice dispassionate, as if delivering a mission report rather than a personal humiliation. Whitfield listened without interruption, his expression darkening progressively when Tristan mentioned the puppet master Prince comment. The Major's eyes flashed with anger. "So this Preston character publicly humiliated you while you were in full uniform," Whitfield summarized, "not just disrespecting you personally, but the regiment and by extension the crown itself." "It was a private matter, sir. I shouldn't have worn the uniform off duty." "Nonsense," Whitfield snapped. "You have every right to wear your uniform with pride. This isn't about you being sensitive. This is about fundamental respect for what that uniform represents." The Major paced the small room. "You served on Prince William's security detail during that military hospital opening last year, didn't you?" "Yes, sir. 3 days at the Prince's 12. And you personally identified a security breach that could have been problematic." Tristan shrugged modestly. "I simply noticed someone in the press pool who wasn't wearing the proper credentials. As I heard it, that someone turned out to be trying to get uncomfortably close to the Prince with a knife in his jacket." "Just doing my duty, sir." "And the Prince personally thanked you, did he not?" "He did, sir. He was very gracious." Whitfield nodded thoughtfully. "The palace has a long memory for those who serve it well. I think this incident warrants documentation. I'd like you to write a formal account, just a factual report of what transpired." After the Major left, Tristan wrote his report with military precision, factual, chronological, devoid of emotional language. When he delivered it to Whitfield's office, the Major read it carefully, nodded once in approval, and placed it in an official envelope. "Good work, Beckford," he said. "You can consider this matter in proper hands now." What Tristan couldn't know was that Major Whitfield had already called a former colleague who now served on the royal household staff. Someone who could ensure this report would reach Prince William's private secretary by morning. The next morning at Crown Line Motors, Preston Crownley watched the cleaning staff make their final preparations for the day. The telephone at the reception desk rang. The receptionist answered, her practiced smile audible in her voice until it suddenly faltered. "Yes, of course. One moment, please." She covered the receiver with her hand, eyes wide. "Mr. Crownley, it's Buckingham Palace on the line for you." Preston froze momentarily before recovering with a smirk. Well. He straightened his tie and took the phone. Preston Crownley speaking. The color drained from his face as he listened. "Yes, of course. We would be honored. Tomorrow at 11 a.m., we'll make all necessary arrangements." "Thank you very much indeed. What is it?" the receptionist asked. "Prince William," Preston whispered, then continued more confidently. "Prince William is coming tomorrow to view our collection. They're specifically interested in the E-type." The news spread through the showroom like wildfire. Preston began barking orders, ordering fresh flowers, champagne, and additional security. "Call my father immediately," he instructed. "Tell him to get back from Hampshire at once. The Prince of Wales is visiting our showroom tomorrow." Meanwhile, in his barracks, Tristan received an unexpected call. "Corporal Beckford speaking," he answered crisply. "Good morning, Corporal. This is James Hamilton, Private Secretary to His Royal Highness, Prince William. The Prince asks if you might accompany him on a special appointment tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Tristan blinked in confusion. "I'm scheduled for duty tomorrow, sir." "That's been arranged with Major Whitfield already. The Prince specifically requested your presence." "May I ask the nature of the appointment, sir?" There was a slight pause. "His Royal Highness is interested in viewing a classic automobile collection at a dealership in Mayfair. I believe you're familiar with Crown Line Motors." Realization dawned on Tristan. "Yes, sir, I am." After hanging up, Major Whitfield appeared at his door with a hint of a smile. "I take it you just received an interesting call," the Major said. "Sir, did you?" Whitfield shrugged. "I simply ensured your report reached someone who would recognize its significance. The rest happened at a pay grade well above mine." Meanwhile, at Crown Line Motors, A black Bentley pulled up outside. Reginald Crownley, a distinguished man in his 60s with silver hair, strode into the showroom. "Father," Preston exclaimed, "you got here quickly." "When my receptionist calls to say a prince is visiting my business tomorrow, I make it a priority," Reginald replied. "Now explain to me exactly how this came about." Preston's chest puffed with pride. "It seems our reputation has finally reached the palace. They called specifically about the Jaguar E-Type." "Did they indeed?" Reginald raised an eyebrow. "And you had no prior interaction with anyone connected to the royal household?" "None whatsoever," Preston assured him. "This is simply recognition of our status as London's premier classic car dealership." By 10:30 the next morning, Crownline Motors had transformed into a royal reception. A plush red carpet stretched from the curb to the entrance. Crystal vases filled with white roses adorned every surface. At precisely 10:55, Preston positioned himself beside his father at the entrance, straightening his tie repeatedly. "This will put us on the map, Father. We will not be using this visit for advertising," Reginald stated firmly. "That's not how these things are done." At 11 o'clock sharp, a small motorcade of unmarked Range Rovers and police motorcycles turned onto the street. Prince William stepped out, dressed in a perfectly tailored navy suit. "Your Royal Highness," Reginald said, stepping forward with a respectful bow. "Reginald Crownley. It is our profound honor to welcome you to Crownline Motors." "Thank you for accommodating us on such short notice, Mr. Crownley," the prince replied, shaking his hand with genuine warmth. Preston stepped forward eagerly. "Preston Crownley, Your Royal Highness. I'm the general manager and son of the owner. It was I who spoke with your office yesterday." "Ah yes," the prince replied, his smile unchanged, though something flickered briefly in his eyes. "I believe there's someone else you've met recently." He turned slightly to gesture toward the vehicle. A figure in the full ceremonial uniform of the Queen's Guard emerged from the car. Corporal Tristan Beckford, his bearing perfect as if he were on duty at the palace gates. Preston's smile froze on his face. His eyes darted from the prince to Tristan and back again, comprehension dawning with sickening clarity. "Corporal Beckford has been kind enough to accompany me today," Prince William continued pleasantly. "I understand he has quite an eye for classic British automobiles, particularly E-types." Reginald Crownley's expression revealed nothing, though his eyes briefly narrowed as they moved from Tristan to his son. "Please come inside," Reginald invited. "We're deeply honored by your interest in our collection." As they moved through the showroom, Preston's discomfort was palpable. Staff members exchanged confused glances, sensing the unusual tension. Prince William circled the E-type. "A magnificent example. The restoration appears impeccable." "Thank you, Your Royal Highness," Reginald replied. "Our specialists take great pride in their work." Though Corporal Beckford noticed some non-original elements, the prince added, "The radio and the hood latches, sir," Tristan supplied. They're from the later 66 model. Preston's face had grown pale. "I wasn't aware of that discrepancy." "Strange," Prince William remarked. "I was under the impression that Corporal Beckford pointed that out during his visit yesterday." The showroom fell silent. All eyes turned to Preston, whose composure was disintegrating. Prince William turned to Preston directly. "Mr. Crownley, I understand there was some unpleasantness during Corporal Beckford's visit yesterday." "What unpleasantness?" Reginald asked, looking concerned. "Perhaps your son could explain," Prince William suggested. Preston tugged at his collar. "There was a minor misunderstanding, Father. Nothing of consequence." "A misunderstanding," the prince repeated. "Corporal Beckford, would you characterize what happened as a minor misunderstanding?" Tristan stood at parade rest. "I came to view the Jaguar yesterday, sir, in my capacity as a private citizen interested in purchasing it. Mr. Preston Crownley refused me service and had security escort me from the premises." "Is this true?" Reginald demanded, turning to his son. "Father, he came in wearing that uniform," Preston protested. It was obvious he wasn't a serious buyer, and you determined his financial situation based on his uniform. Reginald's expression hardened. He's a guardsman, father. They make what? £30,000 a year. The car costs £135,000. I explained that I had saved £58,000 for a down payment, and was prepared to arrange financing. Tristan interjected calmly. I was nevertheless told that people of my financial standing didn't belong in this establishment. Prince William's eyebrows rose. Is that so, Preston? Tell me you did not say that to a serving member of Her Majesty's Armed Forces while he was in uniform, Reginald said, his face darkening. It wasn't like that, Preston stammered. Write to your puppet master, Prince, Tristan quoted quietly. Those were your exact words, Mr. Crownley. The collective gasp from the staff was audible. Reginald closed his eyes briefly, as if in physical pain. Your Royal Highness, the elder Crownley said, turning to Prince William. I cannot begin to express my shame and regret over this incident. Please understand that my son's actions represent neither my views nor the values of this company. I understand completely, Mr. Crownley, the prince replied. I found that in matters like these, it's best to distinguish between the actions of individuals and the institutions they represent. He glanced meaningfully at Tristan's uniform, something Corporal Beckford understands very well. Reginald nodded gratefully before turning back to his son. Preston, you will apologize to Corporal Beckford immediately. Preston looked like he might object, but one look at his father's expression changed his mind. I apologize for my behavior yesterday, Corporal. It was inappropriate. And to His Royal Highness, Reginald insisted, I deeply apologize for my comments regarding the royal family. Your Royal Highness, Preston added, his voice tight with humiliation. They were inexcusable. Prince William nodded once in acknowledgement. Your apology is noted, Mr. Crownley. Reginald placed a firm hand on his son's shoulder. Take the rest of the day off, Preston. We'll discuss your future role in this company this evening. With a stiff bow, Preston retreated toward the rear offices. Corporal Beckford, Reginald said, turning to Tristan with genuine regret. I owe you a sincere apology. Your service deserves the utmost respect, as does your custom as a potential client. Thank you, sir, Tristan replied simply. I'd like to offer you the E-Type at a 30% discount. It would bring it within range of your down payment with reasonable financing. Prince William watched with interest. A generous offer, wouldn't you say, Corporal? Tristan studied the Jaguar, then turned to Reginald. It's a beautiful automobile, and your offer is generous. However, I'll continue my search elsewhere. I understand, Reginald nodded respectfully. The offer remains open should you change your mind. As they prepared to leave, Reginald added, your restraint does you credit, Corporal. Lesser men would have demanded retribution. The uniform demands a higher standard, sir, Tristan replied, from those who wear it and those who encounter it. As they stepped outside, the morning sunlight gleamed off the polished buttons of Tristan's uniform. The red carpet that had been laid out with such ceremony now seemed oddly symbolic. A path of dignity restored. Well, Corporal Beckford, Prince William said as they approached the waiting vehicles. It seems you've made quite an impression. I never intended to create such a situation, Your Royal Highness, Tristan replied. The prince smiled. Sometimes reminding people of proper respect isn't about creating situations, but about addressing ones that already exist. My grandmother once told me that the true measure of the crown isn't in the pageantry or the ceremonies, but in how it treats those who serve it. Reginald approached them once more. Your Royal Highness, Corporal Beckford, I want to thank you for this lesson in humility and respect. Preston will be stepping down from management to spend the next 6 months working in our restoration shop, learning about the craftsmanship and heritage behind every vehicle we sell. A wise decision, the prince nodded. Sometimes the best education comes from starting at the foundation. As they departed, Tristan sat quietly in the royal motorcade. Having second thoughts about the Jaguar, Prince William asked, No, sir. Some principles are worth more than possessions, even dream ones. The prince nodded. What impressed me most wasn't the disrespect you faced, but how you handled it. There's dignity in standing your ground without lowering yourself to another's level. As they approached Buckingham Palace, Tristan gazed at the iconic building he had sworn to protect. He might not be driving home in the Jaguar I he had saved for, but he had preserved something far more valuable, the honor of his uniform and the principles it represented. For a soldier of the Queen's Guard, there could be no greater victory than that. Have you ever stood your ground when faced with prejudice or walked away to avoid conflict? Was Tristan right to decline the car even after receiving an apology? What would you have done? If this story touched you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our daily Royal Guard stories. Share this video with someone who understands that true respect isn't about status or wealth, but about recognizing everyone's dignity. Our previous videos are appearing on your screen now. Check them out next. We'll see you tomorrow with another brand new story you won't want to miss.